All right, let's get back to the oil spill in the Gulf. That federal report we've been talking about says 3/4 of that almost 5 million barrels of oil spilled is no longer in the water, either been recovered or dispersed or just dissolved. A lot of scientists, including several I've talked to today, are skeptical. So let's talk to Carol Browner, the president's energy advisor, about this. She's joining us now from the White House. And Carol, I want to start with the numbers here because we just ran through them. It seems like saying there's 26% residual oil is a little bit misleading, because why not take into account the stuff that has been dissolved to some degree, has been naturally dispersed, is chemically evaporating? Several scientists who I've talked to say that's still in the water.
Well, as you look at the report, it is all laid out very carefully. It's on the web. The scientists can all look at it. It's all been peer reviewed. What we wanted to do was give the American people a real understanding of what happened. And what you see from that report is that about 33% of the oil was part of the government's response effort, part of what we directed BP to do in terms of containment, in terms of burning, in terms of skimming, in terms of dispersing. Mother Nature did some nice work for us in terms of evaporation and dissolution of the oil in the water, and then that left the residual. And the residual is that which we can't properly sort of account for in the other areas, and we wanted people to know that. Now, some of that has already come ashore. It's been cleaned up. Some of it may continue to come ashore. Some of it may dissolve. But we've maintained throughout this that when we had information, when we had numbers, we would make it publicly available, and that's what we're doing today. And we think there's some good news here, showing people exactly what's been happening.
Well, then, in terms of showing them exactly what's happening, why not put out, say, the parts per million concentrations that are in the water column? When I talked to the folks at the University of South Florida, for example, that's what they want to know. They want to know publicly exactly what's in the water column.
Well, I would encourage all scientists to go to the NOAA website. There is detailed information. All of the monitoring that we've been doing, EPA's been doing, is available online. You know, today's report is one of many, many reports. EPA has already done 2 toxicity reports. That's also available online. So I hope people take advantage of all of the information we're making available.
Well, let's talk about the dispersants. About 8%, according to the numbers you all provided, was dispersed with chemical dispersants. Corrects it. We've talked about it so much. If it's only accounting for 8% of the oil that's been degraded here, why was there a need for 2 million gallons, more than 2 million gallons?
Well, first of all, 8% is a significant part of this spill when you think about it. It's almost 400,000 barrels. That's almost 200 Exxon Valdez. So the fact that there were dispersants used to manage a significant portion of this spill, I think we can't just ignore that. We looked at all of the tools available, whether it be the containment, which we directed BP to build in redundancies, the skimming, the burning, to make sure that we were doing everything to manage this as quickly as possible to protect the environment. What we saw is that there was some good progress made. That's what this report is demonstrating today. I think it's also important to note that the kill that they've been working on, the mud, has been successful, and so that we know that cap is in place, the mud's now in place, and you know, we're not done in terms of the final kill, but we're certainly in a very good place. The final kill could happen in the next couple of weeks, and what we'll really then be doing is looking at the restoration. You know, we're going to be in the Gulf Coast for a very long time to come, focus on making sure that BP is held responsible for the economic losses, for the environmental damage, and that we get it cleaned up and we get it restored.
Well, let's talk about BP's resources. Bob Dudley obviously talking about how they are moving to scale back some of the immediate cleanup. There are questions raised about the timing of this report because it seems to provide, frankly, a softer blow to those local communities. If BP is moving its resources out, we've already seen incidences in some of the parishes in Louisiana where local leaders tried to arrest some BP guys who were leaving. Does this report help them pull their resources out a little more easily?
What's happened is that the well has been capped since, as we all know, mid-July. That means there's no oil coming to surface. That means there's not as much oil in the environment. And so our report is simply to give the American people everything we know. It is not about directing BP to do anything. It is simply about giving the public the right to know, honoring their right to know. We're going to continue to do that. Obviously, as less oil comes ashore, the focus will inevitably change. It will move into the long-term cleanup. It will move into the restoration. And what we want to be very clear about, what the president wants to be very clear about, is we're in for a long term.
All right, Carol, thank you very much. Carol Browner joining us from the White House.